Hello, this is Greg Porter again. Welcome to my second video on digital security. I hope you enjoyed the last one. And today I want to cover what I believe are the respective responsibilities of boards and executive management so that there is a good flow of information between the two bodies and that there is a full collaborative approach to this important subject. Boards deal with risk, and there is no more risky subject than digital security. It is very broad, it is multi-layered, multifaceted, becoming more complex day by day. Governments are extremely interested in this and forcing more regulations around the world and developing more regulations around the world that businesses need to take note of. Along with this, there's a lack of expertise in the marketplace in terms of addressing this, and that places extra burdens on us as well. And of course, it can be very costly, particularly if you have lost information or you're subject to privacy breaches or data breaches. It can be not only costly in terms of recovering and in terms of the preventative measures you might need to put in place, but also in terms of potential fines. Now, this particular episode builds on the first episode, and that is around the perspectives that boards should consider in terms of digital security. And the first one of those, of course, is people. Their very health and safety is a major concern for boards. Now, this is not just for employees, but also suppliers, customers, and also members of the public where that's appropriate. The second perspective is that of availability. How do we keep the business going? What security measures do we need to put in place to prevent and to monitor security events that are going on all the time? The third aspect, survivability. How resilient are our firms, our organisations in being able to recover from a major incident and minor ones from that matter? The fourth aspect is reputation. How do our clients rely on the data that we have? How do we keep the integrity of that data? What information do we actually collect and for how long? And the fifth one, of course, is compliance. There are increasing number of laws around and also regulations from various industry bodies, also recommendations from authorities, and not forgetting our internal compliance around policies and procedures. And the last one, of course, is risk assurance. Are our risk management processes keeping up with our digital security requirements? Now, of course, boards have have a number of concerns about our current approach to digital security. I'm convinced that after talking to a number of directors and also executive managers, that many people do not understand the questions to ask or how to answer questions that might be asked of them as well. So, they don't like being told, board directors don't like being told, well, don't need to worry about it. It's under control. Well, that all that does is just make people worry even more. Maybe we don't understand necessarily the risks, but board directors certainly need to understand issues that they're responsible for. Now, they don't want to understand all about cybersecurity. There is no point in being experts. That would take one too much time, but they do need a level of knowledge that is appropriate to the and proportional to the risks that are involved for a particular organisation. And of course, there are increasing demands, as we've already said, from governments and authorities. Now, we need a practical and a flexible approach, and I'm hoping that what I'm presenting today will help you understand a way of dealing with this. So let's start with what organisations are currently doing. I'm not suggesting that we drop everything and do something different, certainly not. But what I am going to suggest is that there is a way of turning what they are doing into language, and in particular, those 6 perspectives, into something that both boards and executive management can understand. So it will basically strip away most of the technical information and present it in terms of business terms. So let's talk about the things that really should be in place to guide one's approach to digital security. And first of all, we need to expect that the organisation will have a security profile. Um, what is of value in the organisation, or what would other people like to get at and steal? What are the threats and the impact of those breaches in a high level way that can be understood by everybody? And just a point here, I think it needs quite often the approaches that are given by governments at the moment seem to sort of break everything down into small business and larger businesses. I believe this is the wrong approach. I believe that an approach should be determined by risk and not by size. The size will be taken into account when you decide how you want to approach the protection and the size of the risk. But initially, you need to identify the risks and the impact that a threat to those assets and things that might be at risk, that will determine your approach. The second thing is you need principles in terms of guiding your strategy. Uh, your principles will do things like state the direction you want to take as a board and as an organisation. They will be in business terms, but they will certainly start out with the principle number 1, which is everybody has a role in security. It is the responsibility of everybody in the organisation. And in some cases, it will be the responsibility of your clients or even in the public. So it's quite often the case that if you read when you enter a building or a public place, there are some provisions made there for you to actually follow to keep yourself safe. And the principles also give you some guidance in terms of the development of policy. It should imply the value of security to the organisation and the development of culture. The third aspect is certainly policy and procedures that come about because of the security profile and the security principles. Now, all the items that I'm talking about here, of course, are interrelated, and certainly development of all these aspects is an iterative process. So taking the previous activities into account, the next one is the development of the strategic plan, which will be the basis of any operational activities that you put into place. It needs to be dynamic because that's the nature of digital security these days. It is really quite dynamic. Our action plan ought to be proportional to the board's appetite for risk and obviously the size of the potential impact of any major security event. The next aspect is that of operations. You need an operational framework to carry out this, and you'll understand a few people who know me that I've developed a holistic digital security framework to actually govern operational activities. It involves and relies on a collaborative approach across the organisation. And perhaps in some organisations, you might need to develop a digital security council, develop the strategic plan to everybody's satisfaction, and so that you end up with a consistent approach in in different aspects of the organisation. And of course, this also involves the maintenance of security activities, such as keeping software patches up to date, whether it be applications or the infrastructure as well. And the last aspect here is one of monitoring the security performance. How are your security tools actually behaving? Are you capturing and monitoring various aspects of your security framework? And the last one, of course, is that the risk management process. You need an assurance process. This needs to be integrated, of course, with your reports through to the Audit and Risk Committee. So building on the activities that we've just talked about in the various areas of digital security, we can now think about, in terms of the perspectives of the activities that the board should participate in. And clearly there's a lot of approvals that are required and where there should be agreement between the directors and the CEO and the executive management. So, proving what the security profile is, the principles, the policies and procedures, the security strategy. What is the operational plan? And of course, they need to receive and approve management reports on security as we go along, and also not neglecting, of course, the Audit and Risk Committee view of things. The other aspects here are supporting the policy, strategy, and activities in practice. And one of the last things I believe is extremely important is providing leadership in this very important area. Now, in terms of external reporting, they need to provide leadership in terms of overseeing communications, both internally and externally in the case of a significant event. And this is because quite often one doesn't know what the impact of a security event is until well after the event actually occurs. And that requires a lot of skill in which I think the board really needs to take a lead. So let's summarise what we've gone through today. Certainly our approach to digital security should be based on the risk that's been identified, not size. We need to identify the roles of both directors and also management. We need to be able to ask of each other the questions that are based on those aspects of digital security that I've outlined before. Needs information transfer from one to the other, both in terms of what's happening, but also in terms of knowledge transfer. It's not important that directors become cybersecurity experts. There is no time for that, but understanding the levels of risk to the organisation will enable the organisation to help transfer the appropriate level of knowledge that is required for the directors. And certainly we need an approach that is integrated, flexible and collaborative. So the questions you should be able to ask, or if you're a CEO or an executive manager, you should be prepared to answer these questions. So what is our digital security risk profile? What are the principles guiding our approach to digital security? What's our strategic plan? Do we have a security approach that is in business terms? And do we measure our security performance? That's the end of this episode. I hope you found it useful and informative. The next episode deals with an overall framework that connects the board responsibilities with those of the organisation. This will result in better collaboration and ensure that the organisation has a common narrative that it can follow. If you would like to discuss with me the approach that I've outlined, please feel free to contact me using any of the means that are displayed on the screen right now. I would love the opportunity and look forward to it. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a like and a comment or two below in the remarks section. If you would like to encourage me further, why don't you buy me a coffee or two? The link is below. See you next time. This is Greg Porter, over and out.